How you doing? I'm McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we're going to go into dating questions. I have a list that I've accumulated from comments and videos and questions from clients, emails. If you have some dating questions, broad, generalized dating questions, let's get into them today. So I knock the mic over here. Let's get into them today and see what happens, because I'm noticing this a lot. There's a lot of people bitching, complaining, saying that dating's not fair, dating's not good, dating apps suck. There's a lot of stuff out there. Now, I don't hang my hat on dating, or I always say I've never been a pickup artist or anything like that. Never had a real problem with dating, actually. It isn't something that I hate or I get anxiety about myself, but there's a lot of people out there, I think they blame some things because they just don't like the process. They have trouble with rejection. But there's some specific questions that we'll get into today that will be dating questions. And if you have questions out there that you'd like me to touch on in a future stream, put them in the comments. But here's some of the big ones. So to start with, what's your view on guys needing or wanting traditional marriage and to have a family with kids? And how would you date looking for marriage? So let me say that again. What's your view on guys needing or wanting traditional marriage and to have family with kids? And how would you go about dating that way? That's a really good question, because I think that if you're when you start your dating life, whenever that is, when you're single and you're wondering how I'm going to approach this, it's really good to approach it with what you're looking for. So this idea that all dating's the same, all platforms are the same, it's not. It depends on what you're looking for, where you live, and what your end goal is, which if it's marriage and kids, it's probably going to be a different game, and you can eliminate a lot of people in the first date, because there's a lot of people that don't want to get married and have kids right now, and that's okay. And sometimes people are intimidated by that. They're upset by it. They're pissed off because people don't see the world the way you see the world. It's okay. But there's some people out there that want to get married. I have clients that have broken up with their boyfriends, especially females, that are like, he doesn't want to get married and have kids. And it's an especially big issue if someone's had kids already. So I'd say if you're gonna go into dating with that as your agenda, as your goal, then you obviously have to look at the platforms you're looking at and probably take more time. Allow yourself more time. I've seen these reality shows where they meet someone like 3 or 4 times and then they get married. I find that's one of the most ridiculous ideas I've ever heard of. If you're going to get married and you're going to attach yourself to such a commitment in the name of kids and family and tradition and whatnot, I would make sure that you are filtering and you're dating a lot before you make that decision. And you're probably going to eliminate a lot of people right off the bat if that's your goal. For starters, there's people that you would hook up with, sleep with, get intimate with that you probably wouldn't want to have kids with. Totally different ball game, right? There's people you'd hook up with that you're like, I wouldn't want to marry them. Totally different ball game. So keeping that in mind, understand that if you're probably going into dating with that idea, what's the demographics in your area? What are you looking for? Maybe write that out or journal that out. Where would that person hang out? And if you're going to do dating apps, what are the dating apps that are favorable for those kinds of relationships? Now, the other thing, like recently I've had clients complain about a lot of different dating problems. It's like, if you're going to go for marriage, then maybe your church is a good place, because churches encourage marriage. Religion encourages marriage a lot of times. And if that's what you're on board with, a client I recommended to recently goes, I didn't think of that, but you're right. I'm religious, but I don't go to church. So just think about the places that you're going, you're frequenting. And it's a good thing that you've identified, hey, I want to get married and I want to have kids. And so when you're dating, just allow yourself the process of eliminating or not going out with someone again that doesn't fit that bill. It's simple as that. All right, next question. We matched on a dating app When should I make the move to asking to talk on the phone or video chat? I don't think it should be too long. I mean, what are you waiting for would be my question. I don't think there's a special set of options here that works every time. This is the problem right now is a lot of people go online and they're like, I did this, this, and this, and it didn't work. It's like dating doesn't work that way. So whatever you decide to do, I wouldn't hesitate. You guys matched. Why wouldn't you maybe have a few different lines exchange and then say, hey, yeah, let's get in a video chat. I do recommend getting in a video chat before you meet up if possible, because people get catfished, people get fooled. You should be meeting in a public place, especially females, because you don't really know this person. So if they're not up for that, or they say, hey, I can't do it right now, but maybe later, that's okay. Don't think that you messed up by asking them and then they said no, because this is what happens now. It's like, oh, I did this, this, and this, and it didn't work. It's like, nah, that person just wasn't interested, so nothing was going to work. It's like you go to a restaurant and you didn't like the food and your friend likes the food. It's like, and you're like, well, this food sucks. It's like someone else will like it. It's the same thing with dating. So don't hang up so much on, like, I would say that if you guys exchange a few lines, text, say, hey, do you want to get on a video chat? And I wouldn't be so anxious that you have to do it right now unless things are going really well, but set a time and a day to talk on the video chat for sure. In today's dating landscape, specifically in Western society, is it worth it getting married? That depends on the individual. I think it depends on your religion. It depends on if you want to have kids. It depends on your demographic and your own views on that. Don't ask someone else if it's good. Now, this whole idea that in the Western world you're going to lose a bunch of money, well, then go to the, if that's your primary concern going into marriage, which is completely fine. Someone will be like, oh, well, that's not the right reasons to get married. It's up to you. That being said, learn what the problems are. It's like, oh, the laws in California are the worst for getting married. It's like, can you do a prenup? There's always a solution to it, right? But asking other people, should I get married or should I not get married? They're just going to tell you what they would do. Get married if you're, my personal view, get married if you want to have kids. I mean, don't you want what's best for your kids to have two parents full time in the house? That's a good reason to get married. If you don't really have aspirations for that, then fine. Going and asking your single friend that likes to play around what he thinks about marriage, don't be surprised if he shits on the idea, but that's not you. So a lot of people, get in touch with what you want. The circumstances of Western marriage, there's a bunch of people out there that would say marriage is horrible based on my experience of, getting divorced. There's a lot of older people that have been married 40, 50 years that are like, yeah, don't get married unless you really want to get into it. You're just going to get the opinion on the other person's experience. Marriage is like any other relationship. There's no guarantee. I think if you have a lot to lose and you're worried about that, get a prenup. If they're not willing to do a prenup, then don't get married. It's that simple. You have to identify what's your individual worry. Don't let worries of other individuals that have had bad experiences be imposed on your decision. That's a big one. How do you date or get dates when you work crazy long hours and spend most of the time on the computer by yourself? What's your priority? So I think if you're going to date, who wants to date a workaholic? So there's been people I've coached before that are like, I'm just going to focus on work. I'm going to focus on my purpose. I really want to make a lot of money right now or go to the gym. Fine. If you're a workaholic and your schedule is really busy, it's going to be more difficult to date because that's at the back of the bus. People are going to feel neglected. They're going to feel, I just had a client earlier. He's been canceled on twice on a date, and someone goes, oh, if they really love you, if they're really into you, if they're all into you, then they would move everything to, some people are workaholics. Work comes first. If that's the case for you, do you like being that way? And what's your reason for being a workaholic? What's your reason for, at some point in your life, are you going to get to 40 and you're going to go, oh, I didn't even have a real relationship because I was such a workaholic? So is it possible for you to take a few steps back on the working long hours thing. So I think you gotta address that for yourself. But this idea that, oh, how do I do this where I work long hours and I don't have a lot of extra time for dating? I think you're going to eliminate a lot of your options. I think a lot of people don't want to date workaholics unless they're a workaholic. And then what is it? Once a month? Twice a month? So this idea that you can somehow still date when you work crazy long hours. Here's what I've learned from people that have dated people with crazy long hours. You can certainly still be attractive. They can certainly like you and you have 1 or 2 days off a week, but they do get irritated with the fact that you're not available. But then also, if you work crazy long hours, you're always tired, you're in a bad mood, you're maybe complaining about work. If that's the case, you're not going to attract a very good partner. So don't quit work, but rethink, is it possible, instead of working dating around my crazy hour schedule at work, is it possible for me to maybe somehow negotiate more time off? That's what I would say. So I wouldn't say to accept that as the case. How are you going to make it better? Because dating does take time. This is what's really interesting about this question, is that when you think about it, a lot of these things out there to have a rotation, maybe have 4 or 5 going, it takes a lot of time. People need time to do that. So that's, a lot of people settle for marriage or a girlfriend, boyfriend, or full-time relationship because they don't have time for 2 or 3. So you got to decide that on your own. And I would say that instead of saying, like, how are they going to negotiate around my schedule? I've had clients that have broken up because of having too many work hours. And like I said, then when you're off, you're tired all the time. So maybe renegotiate your work hours rather than trying to find a way to date people when you're busy. Think in the reverse. After a few dates, I've had multiple women tell me I'm not boyfriend material. Why is this? Well, do you agree with them? Do you want to be their boyfriend? So you got to answer those questions for yourself. Have you been a good boyfriend in the past? And who are these individuals that are judging you based on what? Don't let people, when someone gives you an opinion you don't like, my suggestion is, do you believe it's true? How do they get to judge you for that? All right, folks. If any of you watched this after the fact, please put in the comments below any dating questions that you have or you want answered, and I'll throw them in a live stream in the future. Take care.